Oh,
Uh, a very good morning and warm welcome to one and all present over here for the online webinar on elucidating plant pathogen interaction through omics approach, organized by Kekeva College of Agricultural Biotechnology, Nasik. So, we all know in current situation we are in lockdown at our home. In this situation, this online webinar will enrich your knowledge in the field of biotechnology. So, on behalf of Kekeva College of Agricultural Biotechnology, I heartily welcome to our Honorable Mr. Balasaheb Wag Bhau, President of Kekeva Education Society, Nasik, for valuable presence. So, I heartily welcome to all the trustees and secretary of Kekeva Education Society for their online webinar. So, the main focus is I heartily welcome to our today's resource person, Mr. Sagar Yadav. He is a PhD research fellow in CSIR National Chemical Laboratory, Pune. I feel proud to say that Mr. Sagar Yadav is alumni of Kekewa College of Agricultural Biotechnology and completed his BSc Agricultural Biotechnology from our college. So I welcome you, sir. I welcome Dr. V.M. Sevlikar, sir, Campus Coordinator, Kekevak Educational Campus, Saraswati Nagar, Panchavati, Nasik. Also, I welcome to Professor N.S. Patspor, sir, Principal, Kekevak College of Agricultural Biotechnology. Also, I heartily welcome to all the dignitaries, participants, HOD, teachers, and student participants for this online webinar. So, I request Professor N.S. Patspor, Principal, Kekeva College of Agricultural Biotechnology, to present information about our Kekeva Education Society. So, please, sir.
okay. Thank you, Faradi sir. So, on behalf of KKOF Education Society and KKOF College of Agriculture Biotechnology, I welcome our inspiration, Dr. Balasaheb Wag, Chairman. The KKOF Education Society, we know that it is one of the leading institute in the Nasik district and in the Maharashtra. And now this year, the KKOF Education is now celebrating the 50 years of their establishment. So this society is established in 1970, and now this they are entering into a golden jubilee year. And we know that it is one of the institute they are providing the education in all aspects of the education, which include the engineering, pharmacy, that is the agriculture, and the traditional, that is the art, commerce, science, and computer science colleges. So this is about the why this KKY Education Society they are having the excellence. So they are providing the education in different area, that is engineering, MBA, MCA, polytechnic, pharmacy, agri and agricultural colleges, senior colleges, and one of the important, that is fine arts and performing arts. These are the colleges which are mostly they are not running by the any other institute in the Maharashtra. Particularly this institute, they are running these colleges. Then nursing, B.Ed, junior colleges, and now CBSE and state board schools are the most important part of our education society. And now on the this 15 years completion, so we overall when you can see to this education society, so near about the nine campuses are now developed in different areas in the Nasik district. And particularly as a brand, the engineering college is a one of the important that is the branded college in the Maharashtra. They are particularly identified for their whatever the student they are pass out and alumni pass out. And now this is the statistics of these our students and the staffs. So near about 36 institutes run by this Kekewak Education Society, and near about 20,500 students they are currently studying in the institute, and faculty and staff near about 100 and 180, near about 2,000 staff they are providing the services to this different institute. Then this next about the KK Working Society. So this KK Working Society established in 1970, and now from this 1970, this KK Working Education Society now they are developed step by step by opening the different institute. That is the in 1983 the Kekewak Polytechnics, in 1984 the Kekewak Institute of Engineering and Research, in 1993 the Gitaiwak Kanya Vidyalaya, then in 1996 Kekewak Women's Polytechnic. And in the agriculture education, these Kekewak they are entered in 2003 by opening the Kekewak College of Agriculture Engineering. Then in 2005 Kekewak College of Agriculture, and then in 2008 that is Kekewak College of Agricultural Biotechnology, then 2009 Kekewak Food Technology, and then in 2010 and 11 and 13 that is Kekewak College of Agriculture Business Management and Kekewak College of Horticulture. So these are the important milestones in the development of Kekewak Education Society. Next. Then these are the different technologies used by the our faculty for the this program. That is the this in this current era of this COVID-19. So there are different technologies they are used by this our society. That is the GATE practices software, that is YouTube channel, then online assignments, then e-resources, then MOOCs, then My language laboratory, then Akash tablets, blogs by the faculties, and the smartphone. These are different technologies they are used under these eras of COVID-19, and these were the one of the important things that these all the institutes they are use these different technologies in teaching learning process of these students. The next, these are the our recruiters, means engineering college, polytechnic college, and agriculture college. The different recruiters, they are from the different areas from Nasik and other Maharashtra areas. They are come to our college for the campus placement, and the different students they are recruited in different institutes, in different that is companies, which are the they are mostly these they well-known industries in the India. Next. Then these are the alumni meets which are organized by our Kekewak Education Society. So particularly engineering college is the most of the branded college, and so there are near about 15,000 alumni till there. So at Washington DC and at Pune, we also organize the one alumni meet for agri and agri-allied colleges. Then at Houston, then at St. Joe's, USA, and now in the 2019 on the occasion of 15 years completion, so there is at grand our campus the grand alumni meet will is organized by our Kekewak Education Society on the completion of 15 years of society. Next. So this is the strength and the total intake of the Kekewak Polytechnics colleges run by the Kekewak Education Society. Next. Then these are the Kekewak College of Art, Commerce, and Science, Computer Science colleges and their intake. And next, Kekewak College of Agriculture and Agriculture Allied colleges. So Agriculture Engineering College, BTech Agriculture Engineering having 80 intake. Kekewak College of Agriculture 120. Kekewak College of Agriculture Biotechnology 80. Kekewak College of Food Technology 80. Kekewak College of Agriculture and Business Management 40. And Kekewak College of Horticulture 40. Total 440 intake of our 6 agriculture and allied colleges for this agriculture education. Next. So these are our important initiatives of this Kekewak Society. This Guru Shishya Punyatithi competitions, which are organized for the students which are studying in the school and junior colleges. Then Kekewak Kala Academy, these are the fine arts and performing arts. They are the important activities which are comes under this Kala Academy. Then Karmavir Smriti Shishak competition for the students in the rural areas for development of their sports activity. Then public lecture series for the social development or social enrichment of these peoples. Then Karmayogi and Krushi Tapasvi Puraskar for the persons or people they are doing very well work in the social work, and for the Krushi Tapasvi Puraskar for the special work done in the agriculture sector. then convocation at society level. So at now this convocation of the Pune University we conducted at society level. The CEO meet and HR connect for well connection with this industry to recruit the students and science project competition for to encourage this talent of this at the school level for as a research purpose. So this is about the brief information about the Kekewak Education Society. So thank you very much, and once again I am welcome Mr. Sagar Yadav for this today's national online webinar, and I am proud to say that this is the one of the first batch student. They are now pursuing the PhD at National Chemical Laboratory, and today he is now available to deliver the webinar on the topic which are most important for the from the agriculture biotechnology point of view. So once again, I am welcome Mr. Sagar Yadav on the of Kickoff College of Agriculture Biotechnology. Now I am over to Kharade sir to give the brief information about the college. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Now I am going to deliver some basic information of our college. So now Kekewak College of Agricultural Biotechnology, which is established in 2008 batch. So why agriculture studies should be pursued in Kekewak? So the trusted educational organization with 50 years of continuous quality education in diversified field of education. So 50,000 plus alumni servicing with India and abroad with the innovative thinking, great zeal and enthusiasm. So innovative teaching learning process, sound infrastructure facility with well-equipped laboratories affiliated to Mahatma Phule Krishi Vidyapith, Rahuri. Many students are university rankers, highly motivated and self-dedicated faculty members. Placement and career development facility for the students. The library rich with the types of books, journal, periodicals, e-learning setup, and OPAC system, library manager, and Koha software. These softwares are generally run by the students only. So also college have systems of expert talk, advisory committee and student visits, several agricultural experiential learning modules wise nursery management, plant tissue culture, production of biopesticide, production of biofertilizer, soil and water clinics, seed production technology, and being implemented help student to become an entrepreneur. So there are in-plant training facility and summer training facility inside the college. More than 450 acres of land for practical exposure to the students. Protected cultivation of flowers and vegetables, which is cultivated inside the polyhouse and greenhouses. Well established nursery unit and dairy units, mother orchard of various fruit crop like banana, pomegranate and other fruit crops. Then college have also biopesticide and biofertilizer production unit. College have separate hostel facility for boys and girls and 6 branches of courses of agricultural education under the one roof. So this is the main basic facilities which having the Kekewak. So student they are preparing for the Kekewak Education Society. So our Kekewak College of Agricultural and Allied Colleges, they have organized conference come exhibition organized in collaboration with CII in the 21 to 22 September 2017, and the chief guest of this seminar was Dr. KP Vishwanathan, Vice Chancellor of MP KP Rahuri, and delivering his address speech. There is also academic and industry meet which is organized by Kekewak Education Society on 30th November 2019. So why agricultural biotechnology? Now we are turning towards the biotechnology sector. So agricultural biotechnology sector is a proven prominent field as a career. It includes broad areas of multidisciplinary science like plant biotechnology, molecular biology, immunology, microbiology, animal biotechnology, biochemistry, and many of other branches. Through biological research, help the grower increase plant productivity, reduce of synthetic pesticide, reduce the vulnerability of crops to environmental stresses, and bring a novel system in a most cost-effective way to transform the current agriculture practices by the introduction of genetically engineered crops and boosting agriculture's competitiveness. So the scope and opportunities after BSc Agricultural Biotechnology or BTech Agricultural Biotechnology. So student may enter to uh, below areas after BTech Biotechnology, that is agricultural research scientist, then researchers in independent researcher, then scientific officer in government and private sector, research associate or research fellow, research technical staff for R&D in National Institute, then quality manager or regulator, then consultant for entrepreneur, then teaching faculties in universities or private colleges, then agricultural officer in nationalized bank and state services by the MPSC, then agricultural product producers and suppliers. So these are the branches which are open for the student after BSc Biotechnology. So these are the basic facility which having the KK College of Agricultural Biotechnology. There are 7 number of laboratories present inside the KK Agricultural Biotechnology. First is plant biotechnology, second plant tissue culture, biochemistry and molecular biology, post harvest and food biotechnology, animal biotechnology, microbiology and computer lab system. And there are number of advanced instrument which are present inside the following laboratories. So these are the student profile. So 100% seats are filled since 2011 to till now. So last 9 years there is no any vacancy, no any vacancies inside the agricultural biotechnology. Then highest cutoff than any other private or non-aided institute of biotechnology. Almost 338 students were graduated till 2018 to 2019. So these are the student achievements which are achieved by our students. There is academic excellence by Miss Archana Naule in 2019 to 2020, received Best Agriculture Student Award inside the Krushithon, which are held at Nasik. Then research competition is inside the research competition. Mr. Saurabh Ghorpade got position research in internal in Indian Institute of Management, Ahmedabad. Then inside the sport, Mr. Ganesh Narsale in the year 1819 received silver medal in All India Inter-University Grappling Tournament, which are held at MD University Rohtak. And in the conferences and poster presentation, Mr. Ashutosh Shetty in 2019 to 2019 got first prize in poster presentation, which are organized by Mahatma Phule Krishi Vidyapith, Rahuri. So well qualified and experienced dedicated faculties having having the KK Bagh Education Society. There are total 15 teaching staff present inside the college. Then there is a 34 non-teaching staff present inside the KK Bagh College of Agriculture and Biotechnology, and total number of staff is 49. So faculty retention is more than 5-year experience. Teaching staff is 7 and non-teaching staff is 22. More than 3 years experience, there is 2 teaching staff and 4 non-teaching staff. More than 2 years, there is no any teaching, there is 3 teaching staff. There are total 15 number of teaching staff and 34 number of non-teaching staff. Then the achievement and publications which are achieved by our teaching staff. There is a popular article 28 numbers, research paper 47 numbers, number of conferences and seminar attended by staff there is 57 numbers. Then member of professional societies, there is 17 societies which having the lifetime membership of our staff. Then there is a net and set qualified staff inside the college, there is 2 numbers. Then the interaction of faculty with the outside guests are talk always organized by our KKWA College of Agricultural Biotechnology. The experts from different fields like academic and industries were invited. There are total number of 44 talks will arranged during the last 5 years of KKWA by KKWA College of Agricultural Biotechnology. So there is expert lecture given by Dr. Gaurav Malpani on the topic what after graduation in current year. Then there is an industrial visit which is organized for the students. Industrial visit during last 3 years were arranged to get practical knowledge to the student like VSI, ENRCG, ICAR, IARI in New Delhi, and there are 41 number of visits which are organized by KKWA College of Agricultural Biotechnology. Then there is in last year there is a hands-on training program for the last year student. Then in the last 3 years there is a 311 students have completed their hands-on training program inside the various sectors like plant biotechnology, molecular biology, and post-harvest and food biotechnology. Also, these hands-on training students get their hands-on training inside the outside research institute like VSI Pune, then CIA P inside the Lucknow. Then the success rate of alumni in different field, there are 338 alumni which are passed from this our college. So from this we are in percentage wise there is number of 6.2% students are going for farmer. Then related to farming there is 8.28% student. Then 46.44 there is maximum number of students which are going for the post graduation after BSc Agriculture Biotechnology. Then there is a 2.95% of students going for the bank. There is a specialist officer or agriculture officer in different nationalized bank. Then the in the government sector there is three number of students selected for the government job, and their percentage is 0.88%. And the agricultural education and other areas there is a 35.20% of students going. Then these are the distinguished alumni which are passed from our college. So first alumni is Mr. Sagar Yadav, who is the resource person of our today's talk, who is completed his BSc Agricultural Biotechnology from 2008 to 2012 and now pursuing his PhD inside Biological Sciences from CSIR National Chemical Laboratory, NCL Pune. There is also Harshada Gilande, completed his BSc Agricultural Biotechnology from this college and working as a Krushi Sevak inside the Igatpuri area. Then Mr. Vishal Zagade, who is the pass out student from our college from 2009 to 2013, who is now got a PSI position by the MPSC. Then the Rohan Shirodonkar, who is the pass out student and now pursuing his PhD in biological sciences in Northern University in higher studies abroad, India. So Mr. Harshal Sonavne, who is the agricultural officer in SBI in banking sector. Pagare, who is the pass out student from our college, and she is now working in Reddy's Laboratory Technical Training Intellectual Property Management at Biocapili, Hyderabad. So this is the basic information of our college and basic facilities which are having this KKWA College of Agricultural Biotechnology, and students are preferring this college. So with this introduction, now I request Professor S.N. Pawar sir for the introduction of our today's resource person, Mr. Sagar Yadav. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. A very good morning to all respected dignitaries and attendees present here. It gives me an immense pleasure to introduce our today's resource person, Mr. Sagar Yadav. Mr. Sagar Yadav, an alumnus of our college, KKWA College of Agricultural Biotechnology, Nashik, and he has passed his graduation with the first rank in the university. And later on, he has completed He is Masters from the University of Agricultural Sciences, Dharwad, Karnataka, with first rank in the university too. And currently he is pursuing his PhD in Biological Science with the fellowship from DVT at Department of Biochemical Sciences, CSIR National Chemical Laboratory, Pune. He has shaped his career by qualifying CSIR NET, ICR NET, and GATE Biotechnology. Our today's resource person has been recognized with the Best Student of the Year award 3 times. During his academics, he has published 4 research papers in the international journals. Moreover, he has noted his participation in national and international conferences. Other than this, he took a part in several workshops on emerging field of biosciences like mass spectrometry on proteomics. We all feel delighted to have at this much experienced resource person for today's webinar. Now, in this time, we all are waiting to ascertain the omics approach for elucidation of plant pathogen interaction. Thank you so much, sir.
So now I request Mr. Sagar Yadav present his presentation. And one important announcement is that any participant, if having any queries, please put inside the chat box, and your answers will be given at the end of this seminar in discussion session. So I request Mr. Sagar Yadav to start his presentation. Thank you, sir.
Hello. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Good morning to everyone. And first of all, I would like to thank Pawar sir for this introduction. So coming to the today's topic, I am here to give a presentation on topic elucidating plant pathogen interaction through omics approach. Next. Sachin sir, will you please change the slide?
Yes.
Okay, so coming to the introduction part, as we know, plants are sessile and are not able to move from their place, so they have to face a lot of enemies around them. So including the bacteria, viruses, insects, fungi, nematodes, also the environmental factors like pollution, ozone, and harmful chemicals. So this causes the plant to suffer from the disease. Next slide. Next. So what is disease? So it is a result of the infection by any living organisms which adversely affect the physiological functioning and productivity of the plant, which shows their outward visible symptoms. So what is disease triangle? So not only pathogen and host are involved for this disease, but an important role is played by the environment. So these pathogen, host, plant, and environment, these 3 together forms the disease triangle and are equally important for causing this phenomena. Next. Next slide. So what is pathogen? So it's an agent which causes the infection or disease, especially the microbes like bacteria, virus, and fungi. So these are termed as the pathogens. So there are majorly 3 types of pathogens. They are necrotrophic, biotrophic, and hemibiotrophic. So what is necrotrophic pathogen? The pathogen which on infection to the plants, they kill the plant cells so as to for their own growth and thrive on that host cells. The other part is the biotrophic, in which the pathogen settles on the host plant and utilizes all its machinery and its nutrients without killing the plant. The third part is the hemibiotrophic pathogen, in which the pathogen at its initial stage is in biotrophic phase, and later it changes towards the necrotrophic phase, finally killing the plant cell. Next. So we'll coming to the point of mode of infection. So these pathogens infect in various ways. So they exert some, mechanical forces. Also, they utilizes the chemical weapons for their infection. So coming to the first part, that is mechanical forces exerted by the pathogens on the host tissue. So mostly viruses don't have such mechanical forces, they are easily carried out by the vectors, insect vectors, and also they are they get entered into the host cell through stomata. But in case of the pathogen like fungi, it produces the physical structure called aprisorium and penetration peg, which is important for its entry into the host tissue. Next. So as shown in this figure, you can see that the spore towards the upper left side, the spore, when it settles on the plant surface, it forms a germination tube around 4 to 8 hours, depending on the pathogens. And after formation of the pathogen germination tube, it forms the mechanical force creating the structure called aprisorium. It is the round structure which helps in its adhesion to the surface of the plant, and from where it forms the penetration peg through which it enters its hyphae into the plant cell, forming the hostorium structures and then further invading the plant. Next. So in order to study the proper mechanism of this infection of this pathogen, so I have taken one case study which shows one research on this topic. Meanwhile, in my slides, I will be using these such types of case studies so as to know how this theory is applied in case of the research. Previous one, please. So this is the case study one, which is the work done by Nizam et al. Back. Work done by the Nizam et al. From NIPGR and IRI. So this study shows that high reliability transformation of wheat pathogen Bipyloris sorokiniana using the Agrobacterium tumefaciens. So in this case, they have used the pathogen Bipyloris sorokiniana, which is the wheat pathogen causing this spot blotch disease in wheat. So in this case, they have transformed this pathogen in order to study how this pathogen infects the plant and how it enters through the cells of the plant. Next slide, please. Next slide. So in this case, they have designed one vector, and in that plasmid, they are using plasmid BIF, in which they have used the gene DS red, which codes for the red fluorescent protein. So this plasmid, they transferred it to the Agrobacterium, and then Agrobacterium was used to infect this pathogen Bipyloris sorokiniana. So finally, the DS red gene, which is going to be showing the red fluorescence, will move towards the pathogen Bipyloris sorokiniana. So once this Bipyloris sorokiniana pathogen, when it lands on the surface of the plant, it further invades. So as shown in the figure on the right side, A shows the DIC, it shows the light microscopy, center one is the fluorescence, and third one is the merged one. So first case, when the pathogen lands on the plant surface, it forms the germination tube. As you can see, the fluorescence part in A, it's showing one germination tube. In case of second B fluorescence, you can see it is bipolaris. The name itself suggests that it germinates from two poles, so bipolar. So here you can see in center there is one the spore, and it is germinating from both the sides. In C part of fluorescence, you can see how it has invaded the plant cell and showing most of its hyphal growth and infected the plant. So this red fluorescent protein is utilized to study the infection of this pathogen on the plant cells. Next slide. So coming to the next part of the mode of infection. Next slide. So this is the chemical weapons of pathogen. So it uses enzymes, toxins, and polysaccharides. So enzymes like cutinases, then cutinases, polysaccharides, which are present on the plant cell, that is degraded by this pathogen. So cellulase is required, pectinase is required. So these enzymes are released by this pathogen, mostly fungal pathogens, and also it produces the toxins. Most toxins like Helminthosporium, bipyloxine, then Cercosporium. These are the toxins which are produced by these pathogens when it enters into the plant cell. Also, it produces the polysaccharides. Polysaccharides are produced in the sense when this pathogen, when it enters into the plant cell, it enters into a complete different environment. So to protect itself, it produces the polysaccharides which cover its body and then further helps it in the infection. So as you can see in the left, the pathogen it enters, it forms the toxins, enzymes, and various defense suppression molecules, and further it infects the plant cell. Next slide. So coming to the molecular mechanism, as I have shown in the previous slides of that red fluorescent protein, this also shows that how it enters. It enters through the penetration page and forms the hyphal structures and ostoium structures. Then it adaptation and propagation. It adapts to the environment of the plant, which is completely different from its own environment. So then it disseminates. So when the host defense mechanism is reduced, this time it is most uh, important environment for this pathogen. So it disseminates and spreads so fast. And then fungal factors like enzymes and toxins it helps itself to pathogenicity of this fungus, and in short, it creates a disease in the plants. Next. So we have seen that how pathogen it infects and what are the inbuilt qualities in that. So as the pathogen infects the plants also has its own resistance mechanism to overcome this disease. So there are two types majorly, passive and active. Passive are the one which is a preformed barrier which is there in plant from before the infection, and the other part is the active resistance, which is induced once the pathogen it enters into the plant cell. Next slide. So coming to the defense response in plants, so there are three types of defense responses. So first is the defense response. One, it is the primary line of the defense. It's a physical barrier. As you see, the plant cell is having cell wall containing all the plasma, the secondary cell wall, primary cell wall, and middle lamella. This forms the physical structure and protects the entry of the pathogen into the plant cell. Also, there are physical structures called trichomes. These are the these are the leaf hairs. It is present on the leaves as well as on the stem part of the crop plant, which protects it from the infection of such pathogens. Next slide. So coming to the defense response 2, this is the defense response in which the plant, after recognizing the pathogen, it produces the certain molecules called lipids, proteins, carbohydrates. Also, there are some phytoalexins accumulations, and in order to protect itself when the pathogen is more aggressive. So, in order to protect the plant from the aggressive pathogen, the plant itself kills its own cells. So, it's called as hypersensitive cell death, which protects the further invasion of this pathogen. Then the third response, it is activated by various signals, and there's accumulation of the pathogenesis related proteins. So in this case, the changes occurs at the gene level. So plant produces such chemicals or such molecules through transcription, and try to protect itself from the pathogen. Next slide. So whatever I have said, it is just depicted in this figure. So once the pathogen it lands on the plant cell, it produces the erythritals, which is recognized by the plant cell as from the receptors, and it have a sensitive response, and then further it leads to the oxidative burst. Then it leads to programmed cell death. Then it activates its pathogenesis related proteins, and thus forming the systemic acquired resistance. So it protects itself from the pathogen. Next slide. So this is the slide which is showing the battle between the host and pathogen. So we can see there's one saying in Hindi that kiska palda bhari hai. So here the one which is showing that heavy thing, it's the one who wins this battle. So in case of host, when it is having all its plant innate immunity, then all the generational immunity, all its redox regulatory activities and defense signaling. If all these things work together well, then the host wins this battle. While when the pathogen is more aggressive, when it counteracts the plant defense and suppresses the host signaling, at that time pathogen becomes more aggressive and the battle is won by the pathogen which creates the disease. Next slide. Same thing is depicted here. When the resistance is stronger, the plant becomes healthy. The resistance is less, it's weak. The same cases with the virulence. When the stronger virulence, the pathogen is able to cause the disease. And apart from this, I have shown the environmental variables which plays an important role, like temperature, humidity, and various CO2 composition in the environment. So though the pathogen like fungus, when it lays its spore on the surface of the plant, it cannot infect unless and until there's proper environment. So for example, there are various pathogens which spread its disease when the humidity is when there's humidity is 70 plus or 90 plus. So this environmental variables plays an important role in this. Next. So why there is need of omics study? So as I have told, it's a general depiction that when the pathogen infects, the plant will activate its resistance mechanism like PRPs and all the phytoalexins. But this is different in every different pathosystems, different crop plants. So there's need to study in detail for everything. So you cannot just say that this system will work in other crop plant too. So omics will give you more deeper sense of knowledge and understanding of how these plants give resistance, or this pathogen is more virulent compared to the other one. Next slide. So that's why the omic technology, it helps in pushing the boundaries of our understanding of the disease resistance mechanism in the plants. So it helps to study and analyze the complex cellular mechanisms during the plant micro interaction. So the omics, I'll just name few. When it starts from the DNA, so at the DNA level, this omics is genomics. The study is called as genomics. When at mRNA level, it is called as transcriptomics. At protein level, it's called as proteomics, and metabolite level is metabolomics. And these metabolites, then further, it helps, it plays an important role in all these processes of transcription, translation, and then replications and all. Also, there's a fluxomics, which is a new era, which plays an important role in this omics study, and it studies the flux changes in the flux. When the plants are under stress, there's some flux changes in that. So this study is called as fluxomics. Next slide. So coming to the first part, that is genomics. So in genomics, it is the study of at the gene level, at the genome level, and the interaction between the genome of the organism. So the comparative genomics and the computer-based annotation, it provides an very important information like what's genome structure, what's the biological pathways which they are regulating, then regulatory networks, and evolution of the both plant and microbial genomes. Next slide. So for genomics, the major technique which is used is the NGS, next generation sequencing. So I won't go in deep of this, but I'll just give an overlook of this. When the sample of DNA is extracted and fragmented, and adapters are ligated, which is further used in the different platforms like 454, that is Roche sequencing, Solid platform, and also the Solex, also called as Illumina. So mostly Illumina is more preferred compared to other. So next slide. So coming to the case study 2, in which how the genomics is used in this plant pathogen interaction, that I'm going to tell you in this case study. So this case study is a part of my PhD research. So it is a comparative genomics of isolates of Bioparis sorokiniana from diverse agroclimatic zones of India. So in this work, I have isolated the pathogen Bipolaris sorokiniana, which is a wheat pathogen, causes spot blotch disease. I have isolated these things, this microbe pathogen from 3 agroclimatic zones, that is from Bihar, Assam, and Karnataka. So I have used them, cultured them, and further did sequencing in order to study the comparative genomics. Next slide. So as you can see in this picture, these are the 3 isolates, 1, 2, and 3. I cannot give the names right now as this work is not yet published. So just I am depicting here as the numbers 1, 2, and 3. So these 3 strains are obtained from these zones, and they were cultured, and we have seen the changes in the at spore morphology too. So these spore images can be seen next to it. So which shows some difference at spores level too. And then we use this as for the Illumina sequencing for whole genome sequencing. Next. So this is the workflow of this sequencing analysis. So after getting the raw data, we did QC, and then the data was assembled, then gene prediction was done, and then using various databases, we annotate these genes using UniProt, COG, CASI, and fungal virulence. Then also secondary metabolites were identified, then tRNA, rRNA, signal peptides were identified from the data obtained from this whole genome sequencing. Next. So this image shows the hotspot of the genomic variation. As you can see, the ND90PR, it is a reference genome of this Bipolaris sorokiniana. So it is used as a reference in many studies. So 1, 2, and 3 are the genome sequences of my isolates. And as we can see, most of the region are same compared to the ND90PR. So this shows that most of the region is conserved, but apart from this, there are various insertions and deletions. As you can see at extreme right, in second and third isolate, there was few genes which were completely absent in case of 1 and 2, means references and first genome. Also, there are various deletions in case of isolate 3, 2. So various insertion deletions are there, which shows that this pathogen is evolving according to the geographical areas too. Next. So we did the phylogenetic analysis in order to study whether this pathogen belongs to this Bipolaris sorokiniana or not. So as you can see, there's a separate cluster of Bipolaris sorokiniana strains, which is below depicted. So all the sample 1, 2, and 3, they all forms a cluster along with the Bipolaris sorokiniana strains, which are already known, compared to the other Bipolaris strains, which are shown in the upper side, which infects the other plants. Next. So coming to the gene prediction and annotations, we found that there are various genes were identified from all these 3 isolates, and we found that the number varies between all these 3 isolates. And in case of second isolate, the number of gene was higher compared to the other 2. And we further used GO category, it is gene ontology was done, and it was categorized into 3 groups like biological processes, molecular function, and cellular component. So we found that in case of second isolate, which is shown green in color in this graph, it shows more number of these genes in case of all the 3 processes, all the 3 categories compared to the other 2. The next one is the pathogen host interaction database, which we used. So this database is already there for us to use, and in this case, we hit our data with the database given here, and it can be found that how much hits it is giving to the host and gene function which with which it is interacted. So we found that the second isolate, number 2, is giving more hit to the such database, PHI database, compared to the other 2. So this is giving some signals that why this gene is giving more gene number, why this isolate is giving more gene number, more geo categories gene number, than more PHI hits. Next slide. Next. So next is the virulence factor hit. As I mentioned before, it was disease hit. So we also studied the virulence factor which is having in these three isolates, and we surprisingly found that second isolate is having more virulence hit compared to the other two. Then we found out the secondary metabolites, means the genes which are responsible for the secondary metabolites in all these three isolates, and we found there was more number of genes for NRPS than type 1 polypeptide synthase. And surprisingly, we found that you can see at the extreme right side, the beta-lactam, bacteriocin, and siderophore genes were present only in case of the second isolate. So this is giving some signals that why these three are present only in this second isolate. Next. So what we can conclude from this case study that these three beta-lactam, bacteriocin, and siderophores, this plays an important role in virulence, and which shows that the second isolate is having this virulence factor more in number. So it is more virulent compared to the other two. And also we have done all the studies, and we found that this comparative genomics have helped us to identify the virulent genotype, that is second number. And further, we also studied its the three isolates were infected. The wheat crops were infected with these three isolates, and there also we found that the second isolate shows more early the disease symptom compared to the other two. So this genomic study helps us to identify the relation between these two, with these three isolates, and gave us a virulent pathogen. Next. So next is the transcriptomics. So next is transcriptomics. So transcriptomics is the collection of the mRNA molecules in the cell, and this focuses mostly on the RNA sequencing. Mostly here also Illumina is used, and then after sequencing, the measurement of this differential expression of this mRNA is studied. So this transcriptomics gives more filtered information compared to the genomics, as not all the gene is transcribed. There are various non-coding region in the genes, but the thing which are transcribed means the which code for a which is a coding one comes under the transcriptomics. So it is more better compared to the genomics. So next slide. So coming to the case study, so this is also part of research which is from my lab only. So it is exploring the molecular interaction of wheat Bacillus surucana interaction using transcriptomics approach. So in this case, wheat and this pathogen, they are used for the study of this transcriptomics, that how there's interaction between these host and pathogen. So next. So we have carried out this experiment in greenhouse where the plants were grown into the tray, and under sophisticated condition. As I mentioned, all the environment factors plays an important role in virulence factor of this pathogen. So a confined structure was prepared, and the experiment was carried out in such environment. And after 8 to 10 days of the growth of the plant, it was ready for the infection. Next slide. So the plant was ready, and then the fungal spores were isolated from the pathogen, and it was sprayed onto the leaves of these plants. And we observed the phenotypic effect of this fungus on the wheat cultivars, and we used two genotypes of the wheat. One is susceptible and other is resistant. As I cannot mention the names here, as it's unpublished data. So I'm just telling you the susceptible one and resistant one. So the picture shows here that at in case of susceptible genotypes, at third day post inoculation only we can see some spots of disease is seen from third day of inoculation in case of susceptible one, which further spreads, the disease is spread, and further we get the withered leaves in case of susceptible one. While in case of resistant genotype, we see that very less spots are seen, that too at the later stages from 7th, 8th days after inoculation, and the growth of this pathogen is restricted. It is not spread into the plant, thus giving this plant as a resistant property. Next. So for a further study, we used the plant tissues from the 1st, 4th, and 6th day inoculated and controlled plants. Next. So as I mentioned, the spores were infected to the resistant and susceptible variety, and then the tissue was harvested, and then RNA was extracted from this tissue, and further cDNA was converted and was given for the RNA sequencing, and further we aligned, when the data was obtained, we aligned and did the expression studies and annotated all these data, and further we found out whether there is some mechanism of disease resistance or susceptibility in these two cases. Next. So we found out that there was various differentially expressed genes identified in case of both susceptible and resistance. So as you can see, we are using 3 time points, 1, 4, and 6 days post inoculation. So susceptible one, we are finding that the upregulation of the genes was showing an constitutive increase from 1st, 4th, and 6th days post inoculation. So you can see at initial stage, that is first DPI, it was very much less upregulation of the genes in case of susceptible one. And further, we used gene ontology enrichment for these differentially expressed genes. We categorized it into 3 groups: biological process, molecular function, and cellular component. Next. So as you can see in this results, first, as we grouped it into the biological process category, this is the result of the susceptible genotype, which shows that at the initial stage, very less genes were upregulated. So it includes carbohydrate metabolic processes, which is only one pathway related genes were active. While at later stage, 4th and 6th, it shows more upregulation of the processes, including response to the abiotic stimulus, then cellular amino acid synthesis, then multi-organism processes, response to the abiotic stresses, and biological regulation. So all these, which are very important, it expresses at the later stage, 4th and 6th DPI, but not in 1 DPI cases. Also in 1 DPI, many genes were downregulated in case of susceptible genotype. I will give the explanation further. Next. So in case of resistant genotype, for this biological process, we found that in case of first DPI itself, there was a response to the stimulus, biotic stimulus, stresses, and metabolic process. All this started at initial stage only, which was constitutive at 4th day also, and at 6th day it shows more upregulation of the other required genes, which plays an important role in the defense mechanism. Next slide. So in case of molecular function category, we had also the same thing we have observed in a susceptible genotype. Only carbohydrate binding genes were upregulated in case of 1 DPI, while very less in 4 DPI were upregulated. While it shows the upregulation at the later stage, that is 6th DPI, which was expected to be at 1st and 4th DPI. It was showing very late expression of these desired genes. Next. So in case of resistant genotype, here also we can see at molecular function also, at 1 DPI itself, this resistant genotype is showing the upregulation of the genes like carbohydrate binding, catalytic activity, transcription regulation. So all these defense-related genes which are regulated at 1 DPI only, same is carried at 4 DPI, then at 6 DPI also. So it is showing the constitutive expression of these molecular function genes, which was downregulated. Nothing was downregulated at 1 and 6 dpi. So this gives very important data and nice data. Next. So in case of cellular component, next. So in case of cellular component category, we have found that same case here, only few genes were upregulated at 1 dpi. In case of susceptible genotype, that is extracellular region, then extracellular region for cell wall was found at 4 dpi, and at later stage at 6 dpi, we found that various other genes involved in mitochondria, vacuole, and ER nucleus for this mechanism, they are upregulated at very later stages compared to the first two stages. Next. While in case of resistant genotype, we can see, yeah, it's only few genes were upregulated at 1 dpi. Then at 4 dpi, we found most of the genes were upregulated, and 6 also it was showing very less genes for the cellular component. As this is showing this result because this pathogen, when it enters into the resistant genotype plant, it shows it restricted its growth. So the further proliferation of this pathogen was absent. So it confined its growth here only. Next. So coming to the other part, that is metabolic processes and cake pathways. So in susceptible genotype, we found that at 1 dpi, no such cake pathway, which is very important for its resistance. No such pathway was found enriched at 1 dpi, while it showed the enrichment at later stages at 4 and 6 dpi. As you can see, the left column, all the three parts are upregulated 1. So in fourth, very less pathways were found at phenylpropanoid biosynthesis, then glutathione synthesis, and at 6 dpi plant pathogen interaction pathways were found. So all these were found at later stages. Next. In case of resistant genotype, we can see the cake pathways all were upregulated at right from the first days post inoculation, and first, fourth, and it was showing more upregulation in case of 6 dpi. As you can see, it was way more compared to the other dpis and other genotype 2. So glutathione metabolism, phenylpropanoid biosynthesis, MAP kinase, and plant pathogen interaction, all these genes were highly upregulated in case of the resistant genotype. Next. So from this case study, we can conclude that this up and down regulation at different genotypes, at different pathways, it shows that the susceptible genotype, it showed very delayed response to the pathogen. So at initial stage, there was no any such activation of the genes were found which plays a defense role. But in case of resistant, right from the first stage, first days post inoculation, the plant started producing its metabolites, its compounds, molecules required for the defense mechanism. So from this study, we can conclude that how we can differentiate between the resistant genotype and susceptible genotype when the pathogen infects itself. So this study of transcriptomics gives a clear picture that how the interaction takes place in two different pathotypes, in two different plants, like resistant and susceptible. Next. So coming to the third omics approach, that is proteomics. So proteomics is the study of the proteins, which gives the idea of its abundance, its modification, and the interaction. And then this approach can be used to investigate the changes in the protein levels at the stress condition. So genes, we have seen genomics, then further we saw the transcriptomics, and now proteomics is more filtered kind compared to the other two, previous two, because not all the transcribed RNA is converted to protein. Some RNA is converted to like rRNA, tRNA, and some forms of structural components. So proteomics is more filtered kind of study. Next. Next slide, please. So as I explained, why proteomics compared to the other two? So many type of information cannot be obtained from the genes alone, as I explained. So, and the number of proteins is much more compared to the what the mRNAs are. So there's a lot of things which would be missing if we consider only the mRNA part. So this proteomics plays an important role in such interaction study. Next slide. So the major technique which is used in this proteomics is the mass spectrometry. As we know, it is also a gel-based technique also is there for protein study. We know that 2D electrophoresis is also used, but it restricts the study because not all the small proteins can be identified from these 2D gel electrophoresis. So better compared to the gel-based technology, if it's better to move towards the spectrometry. So mass spectrometry is the widely used technique for this interaction study. So here there are major 3 steps. Sample is first ionized, and then it moves towards the separation of the proteins based on the mass to charge ratio. Then further they are quantified, used, and then detected further. Next. Next slide. So I just want to give a brief overview of this mass spectrometer. So the basic components in this mass spectrometer are the sample inlet. So our sample which we use is in liquid form. So it is injected through the inlet, and the liquid droplets are produced through the gases, especially nitrogen gas, and then it is converted into the various ions. So these ions are then further moved through the ion transfer column, and then it moves to the mass analyzer. So this is the place where these ions are separated according to their masses, further which they are detected, and the information is recorded in the PC. Next. So this is one of the mass spectrometer which I have used in my study. It is the SYNAPT. It is the high definition mass spectrometry. Here you can see at the extreme left there is the analyte spray through which our liquid sample it enters, which we inject it into inside, and further through the with the help of gases it forms the spray, and the small droplets are formed, which is further converted into the ions, which moves through the quadrupole, as we can see here, 2 horizontal lines, quadrupole, which separates the ions based on the charge. So quadrupole means there are 4 such rods of 2 different charges, and through which ions move. Further, they move to the trap, and then the ion mobility separation, and then it is pushed into the TOF detector, that is a time of flight. So first it is separated based on the charges, and then in case of TOF it is separated based on the mass. The heavy ion will take long time for this excitation and coming back to its normal position. So this W shape, it shows the TOF. So first it is excited, move to the one part, then again it is settled, again move to other part, and then come to the detector. So this is the Q-TOF in short. Next. So this case study 4 is also a part of my research, and this is exploring the molecular interaction of weed Biploris serrutinana interaction of this fungus and pathogen using the omics approach. Next. Sorry, proteomics approach. Next. So as for the in transcriptomics data, we have used all the 1, 4, and 6 tissues. Same kind of tissue we are using here for our proteomics study. Next. So this is the workflow of the proteomics approach. As I mentioned, the tissue were harvested, then sample preparation was done where the proteins were extracted from both the genotypes, and the proteins were extracted. Then it was purified. It was trypsin was used for restriction digestion, as a whole proteome cannot be used directly into the mass spectrometry. So we digested it, and then further samples were made ready for injection by using certain solvents, and then we used LC-MS Synapt. This mass spectrometry need to be attached with some chromatography technique for its separation, like GC or LC can be used. So mostly for our study we used LC-MS. Then the data was obtained and was further used for statistical analysis, and then further uh, protein identification was done. Next. So this image shows the screenshot of the server software which I use. It is the Protein Links Global Server (PLGS) software, which is used for the protein identification. So once the raw data was obtained, it was analyzed on this software to find out the proteins. In this case, below, as you can see, the chromatogram where the lines indicate the masses indicates a particular protein. So which when clicked on that particular mass, it shows the all the information about the protein, that what is the accession number, what's the entry number, description, and what is the function of this protein. Next. So we obtained a lot of proteins actually. So I'm showing you here very few data, which was mostly important. So here list name RC. RC indicates that resistant genotype, and C indicates the control. So resistant genotype, that plant at control condition, RI resistant one at inoculated condition, where the pathogen was inoculated, it is diseased one. SC indicates the susceptible in control form, and SI indicates susceptible in the inoculated condition. So we obtained various unique proteins in case of all these four systems. So below we can see a four-way Venn diagram showing the relation between the unique elements. And in case of RC, we can found only one unique protein. In case of RC, in RI, we can see 12 such proteins are present only in case of RI. So as RI is the resistant genotype which we have studied, and it is showing the more number of unique proteins only in this case. So this is giving some signals that these proteins may play an important role in the resistance mechanism of this genotype. Next. So I'm giving you the names of that uniquely identified proteins in RI. So mostly they were differentiated proteins only, like nicotinamide nucleotide transhydrogenase, uh, peroxyredoxin, etc. And then further, all these proteins which play an important role in the resistance mechanism by functioning in the ROS detoxification, mitochondrial and cytosolic metabolism, transcriptional regulation, stress adaptation, stability, solubility of glycans, etc. Next. So from this back. Previous one. So from this study of proteomics, we can conclude that when we compare the two systems, resistant and susceptible, we found that a resistant plant is showing extra proteins which are uniquely identified only in that system, which may give it resistance ability compared to the susceptible one. So this proteomic study is very important to study the interaction between the host and pathogen, and also between the two systems, two different hosts, susceptible and resistant. Next. So coming to the fourth omics approach, that is metabolomics. So metabolomics is the final product, what we call. It gives the phenotype. So metabolomics generates in-depth information of the metabolites at the cellular level. Okay, we studied this at the end products of the metabolism. So metabolomics approach have the ability to measure a broader array of the small molecules. So it's also much finer compared to the genomics, transcriptomics, proteomics, and metabolomics is much finer study compared to the other omics. So widely used techniques for the metabolomics are also in combination with these GC or LC-MS. So GC is used when we are focusing on the volatile compounds, and LC for the general compounds. So here I have used LC-MS in my study. Next. So as I explained, the mass spectrometer for the proteomics, which was HGMS at SYNAPT, mostly Orbitrap is the mass spectrometer which is most predominant and is very important for the metabolite study, and it is more it gives data, very fine data we can obtain from this. So at extreme left we can see a conical structure through which a sample is injected and moved toward the ion source. Further, it is moved to the quadrupole for the separation based on the charges. Then it is moved to the, as you can see, there's a red horizontal, red rectangle seen. That part of that machine is called as the ion trap. So where the ions are trapped for some time. That's why it's called as Orbi trap. Trap means the ions are trapped here for some time, and then it is bombarded. It's moved forward to the orbital unit. So below you can see the orbital unit where you can see the red and green ions. They are moving in orbit and separated from each other. In case of ion trap, all the ions of equal mass are together, but when they move to the orbit trap, the same charged molecules are separated based on the masses, and they keep on orbiting, revolving around that coil, and then once separated, they are moved further, and thus they are detected further. The mass is detected, so the particular metabolite can be detected from this system. Next. So in order to study this metabolomics, I am showing my own research work. It's part of my research for PhD. So this case study 5 shows that elucidating with bipyridine sorokinin interaction using the metabolomics approach. Next. Next, please. So as you can see, the same type of tissue which and system we are using for this metabolomics approach. So 1, 4, and 6 was the time point was used. Along with that, I used 0 DPI also to get more precise study. Then the workflow of metabolomics approach shows that the leaf tissue was obtained, then sample metabolites were extracted from these two systems, and the samples were made ready using particular solvents, and was used for this LCMS, that is Orbitrap, also called as HR LCMS, high resolution. So further, the data was acquired and it was run through the R software, and then for the metabolomics, metabolomics were retrieved from the MetaboAnalyst software, and for the identity of metabolites were done. Next. So the statistical analysis was done. So this combined PCA is a statistical analysis which shows that how the metabolites were separated in case of each DPI 0, 1, 4, and 6. So in case of 0 DPI, all the 4 components were separated properly. So green shows the separate entity like DC. Sorry, it is showing the resistant inoculators and resistant control, then susceptible control, susceptible inoculated. All these four were separated properly. So this is what we desire, that this data should not interconnect with each other. This should show a proper separation on this scatter plot. So all this was obtained. Then further, the list of compounds were obtained. So around 3,500 plus metabolites were obtained in my study, but I'm showing you here very few which are important. And these are the list of the important metabolites which play an important role in defense mechanism. Next. So this is the list of compounds which are found only in the resistant genotype at a later stage, that is 6 days post inoculation. So the compounds like tilatin, clistin A, rutin were found only in case of this resistant genotype after inoculation, and these compounds belong to the alkaloids, lignin, and flavin, which play an important role in the resistance. Next. So from this study of metabolomics, what can be concluded is that we found that certain metabolites were precisely found only in case of the resistant genotype on inoculation, which shows that these compounds play an important role in the resistance of this resistant genotype. So, and also we found that all these components were properly separated in the PCA analysis, and there's difference at the time point also between the two different systems, resistant and susceptible. Next. So what is the overall conclusion from this talk of my on omics? So this omics is providing the insights to the molecular mechanism of plant resistance to the pathogen for the better disease management. So this omics gives us more refined data, more refined information, which can be used further for our study in order to find out which are the genes responsible, or which are the compounds which play a major role in defense. So based on the different pathosystems too. So this omics enables us to translate the complex interaction among, so as I mentioned, it's a very complex interaction among the genes, mRNA, proteins, and metabolites. And this can be used to improve the phenotype and enhance the crop productivity. Next. So before concluding my talk, I would like to quote one thing, that is, surround yourself with friends to keep enemies far. So this quote is for the above pic, which shows here towards left the microbe, that is beneficial microbe. It is boosting the immunity of the plant, and then the plant is protecting itself from the pathogens. So this picture gives a hint that further we can study the interaction not only between the pathogen and host, but we can use the beneficial microbes, the plant, then host plant and pathogen, and we can study the interaction between all these three living microorganisms and the plant itself. So thank you for having me here.
So with this, Mr. Sagar Yadav have explained various things on elucidating plant pathogen interaction through omics. Also explain the various concepts like omics and proteomics, metabolomics, then transcription, then other things. So I once again thank you very much, sir, for such a nice explanation and such a nice topic presentation. So one important announcement is there. So
Hello everyone. There is one important announcement to all participants that your feedback link is posted on the chat box. Please all the details and get your certificate on your registered mail address.
Thank you, madam. So now I request Professor MP Garud madam to discuss the various questionnaires which are asked by the participant. Please, madam.
Good afternoon, sir. The first question by our one participant: which tools can be used for coding gene prediction? Am I repeating?
Okay.
Which tools
Yeah.
can be used for coding gene prediction?
So, as I mentioned, the genes can be predicted at all these stages of the omics. So, when you see genomics, there also we can predict some genes. Then further transcriptomics and proteomics. These are also the omics studies which shows the prediction of the genes. So, when we combine all these omics, it is called as integrated omics. When we integrate this omics approach, which is more beneficial and more important data can be obtained. So more precisely, we can say that this is the genes which we decode, or these are the genes which play an important role in such a defense mechanism. So integrated omics is the approach which gives the fine answer for this thing. Next.
Next
I hope I
question
have
by
answered.
Sandeep Kadam. Sir, for
Yes.
your comparative genomic study, which approach you have followed for assembly, de novo or reference based?
I have used both the assemblies, reference based also and de novo also, and I have found that the de novo reference assembly gives more fine data compared to reference based. And in reference, I have used the NT90PR, that is a reference genome of Bacteroides solifluana. So I have used both the assemblies, but de novo gave me more better result.
There is a
Next.
common question by all participants. Sir. What is your view about
Yes.
GM crops?
Okay, actually, this question is very important. Actually, being biotechnologist, yes, I support, and in few years, we won't be surprised to see GM would be there among us, and there are various deputies taking very much initiative for this thing, and many such work is going on these GM crops. But yeah, the mindset is to be changed of the people. So this is the thing which we all the educated people, all the biotechnologists should do. We should change the mindset of the people. But yeah, you should not be surprised. In few years, yeah, we can see these GMOs around us. Yeah, it's not impossible. Yeah, quite difficult, but not impossible. And it is the actual need which is required for now. Next.
Thank you so much, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Sir, the next request for you is that please share your some experience about KKWAC alumni as a KKWAC alumni.
Okay. Okay, actually, it feels a great pleasure for me to be here in front as a guest lecturer for this talk. As this was my college for my graduation, so I was from the first batch of this college. So right from where the building was yet to be constructed, we were there. So we have seen all the growth of this college in front of our eyes. So I have seen, uh, actually, I am feeling very different now. Yeah, I have seen the growth of this college. Then we have struggled a lot. This is the thing, actually, wherever I am now, it's because of the struggle that we have faced. And it's good thing that we have undergone to that situation. But there was a lot of support from all the staff members. Though there were very few staff, we had a lot of support there. Then all our students, we were quite interactive, and though there was very less resources, we try to make it more useful. We just shared our information. We just used all those what we had. So this college has given me a lot. Actually, it feels great to be called as alumni of this college. So it's a great experience. So whenever I go, I do mention that I am from this KK college, and so I just want to give this thing that whatever the staffs you are having now, this college is having a lot of experienced staff. So all the students there should utilize them, and it's a good college, and it's nice to be called as an alumni of KK College. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Now, respected dignitaries and all the participants, it's deemed it a great honor to propose the vote of thanks to all who have helped us in making this online webinar on elucidating plant pathogen interaction through omics approach. First of all, I would like to propose my heartily vote of thanks to our Chief Patron, Honorable Sri Balasaheb Wagh, President KK Wagh Education Society, for gracing today's webinar. I would like to thank you, our today's resource person, Mr. Sagar Yadav, for making excellent presentation and making this webinar interesting and meaningful. So, I would like to express my sincere thanks to all the trustees and secretary of KK Wagh Education Society for their blessings to this online webinar. I would also like to thank Dr. V.M. Sevlikar sir, Campus Coordinator, KK Wagh Educational Campus, Saraswati Nagar, for their moral support and guidance. I would like to express our profound gratitude to our principal, Professor N.S. Pachkor sir, for his guidance to make this webinar session successful. Now, lastly, I am happy to express vote of thanks to all the dignitaries, principals, HOD, staff members, and students for participation and making the event successful. Once again, thank you all of you for cooperation. And with this, with the prior permission, here I announce that today's webinar session is over. Thank you very much, sir.
I would like to say something. I would like to thank Principal Dr. Paspor sir also for giving this invitation for this webinar, and thanks to Sachin Karade sir also for contacting me and organizing these things for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So all the participants kindly check the chat box. There is a one link for feedback, and after submission of feedback, we will get the attendance certificate of this webinar. So please fill the feedback and get your certificate on your email ID. Thank you very much.